It was the kind of mud that didn't let go. In the Hürtgen Forest, late 1944, it filled your boots, slowed your pack, and drowned foxholes before you could curse. We'd come from Omaha's slaughter, Normandy's traps, France's sprint, but this fog-choked wood was the war's stubborn stand. Half my platoon gone to chill or kraut fire. I was Sergeant Harlan Ironjaw Whitaker, 38, jaw toughened by a Tunisian blade. Bradley's 12th pushed for Rocher Bridges, unlocking Ike's Rhine dream by Christmas. The truck brought replacements at dusk, jolting to the barn's pocked walls. 6 new faces gripping sea bags like lifelines. Among them, Edward Eddie Harlan, 19. Wire-rimmed glasses fogged, uniform still creased from stateside. A failed architect from Pittsburgh, drafted after his blueprints crumbled in some Philly firm. Tex Riley, my panhandle sharpshooter with a drawl like gravel, eyed him first and grinned wolfish. Look at the blueprint boy, fresh off the drafting table. Doc Ellis, the Philly medic who could stitch a gut shot under fire, just shook his head slow. Tender shoot in timber wolf country. Brooklyn Kowalski, street hard from the docks, snorted through his busted nose. Head full of angles, heart full of air. We lined him up under the lantern's weak glow, the air thick with wet pine and unwashed wool. Port arms, I barked, voice rough from shouting over 105s. The M1 Grands came up smart, all but Eddie's. His slipped right from those soft architect hands, barrel kissing the muck with a wet slap. Laughter rippled like shrapnel through the vets. He snatched it up, wiping frantic with his sleeve, face burning redder than a flare. Slippery, Sarge. Won't happen again. I stepped in close enough to smell the soap he still carried from the replacement depot. Slippery kills quicker than a car 98K. That Garand's your god now, Harlan. Muck it up, and you pray to Jerry's saints. No more slips or you're digging your own grave solo. Understood? Yes, sir, he mumbled, eyes on his boots. Up in the loft that night, hay prickling through the blankets, the questions started. Eddie bunked next to Preacher Hayes, my Bible-thumping barman from Alabama. Couldn't keep quiet. How do you spot incoming? That whistle they talk about? Tex, rolling a smoke across the way, drawled without looking up. You hear the whistle, kid? You hit the dirt before the boom kisses your ass. No time for sketches. Then, peering at a Schmeisser we'd captured last week, propped like a trophy. What's the MP40's effective range, anyway? Brooklyn, sharpening his bayonet with a whetstone rasp, chuckled dark. Close enough to smell their sauerkraut. Pull the trigger and skip the goddamn books. I let it slide once, but sentiment? That I nipped quick. Eddie pulled a V-mail from his pocket later, unfolding it careful under the dim bulb. Words from some sweetheart back home. Betty or whatever. Promising forever. His eyes went soft, distant, like he was sketching a picket fence instead of foxholes. I snatched the edge, folded it sharp. Pack away the fairy tale, Harlan. War don't give a damn for mushy letters. You cling to that. You flinch when it counts. And flinching gets you a box, or worse, drags us down with you. Digging started at false dawn. Picks thudding into frozen earth, while the fog hung like a shroud. Eddie's hole was a joke, barely knee-deep. Walls crumbling like his career. I kicked the side in, dirt avalanching. Chest deep, minimum, or Jerry's got a new mattress. You want a sleep sound? You dig like the devil's after you. Morning hump was a slog. Trails turned to sucking rivers by the rain. Packs groaned under K-rations, extra bandoliers, and the weight of what we'd lost. But Eddie's gear, that clattered like a tin can parade. Canteen-banging buckle, entrenching tool loose on his belt. Silence on the line, I hissed after the third rattle. It happened again 5 minutes later. Eyes from the column turned to daggers, Tex muttering low about city mice in the woods. Eddie just hunched smaller, adjusting straps that bit wrong from the start. Then the barrage hit like God's own hammer. Our own 105s first, walking fire ahead, but Jerry's 88s answered quick, those screaming bastards keening through the canopy, shells bursting in black puffs that shredded pines like paper. Cover! Foxholes now! The platoon dove, bodies slamming earth. But Eddie stood there flat-footed in the trail, Garand limp, eyes wide as the first tree cracked 50 yards off. I lunged, tackled him low, into a swale just as the world erupted. Dirt fountaining, shrapnel whining past like hornets. We rolled, me pinning him till the echo faded. Panting in the muck, I hauled him up by the collar. Legs failed you, Harlan? Or that big brain froze on blueprints? He coughed, spitting soil. I didn't hear it coming right, Sarge. Shook him hard, close to clipping him one. You hear everything out here. The snap of a twig, the clink of a pot handle. Fail like that again, and you stay failed. You're a jinx on this squad, and I've got no room for curses. The probe that afternoon turned hot quick. A kraut patrol sniffing our flank, shadows in the mist. Eddie on the line panicked and squeezed his Garand early, emptying a full 8-round clip at ghosts in the brush, way beyond 300 yards. The pings echoed clean, but it pulled every eye our way. Jerry's Mausers cracked back, a round grazing Doc's sleeve as he patched a splinter wound. We flushed him out, Brooklyn's Thompson chattering final, but it cost us time. Precious minutes regrouping, hearts pounding extra. Round the fire that night, the jibes flew thick as the smoke. Phantom Slayer, huh? Next you'll draw us a map to Berlin. Tex offered a shared bar of Hershey's from his stash. Ignored, left hanging in the air. Preacher quoted some psalm about the meek, but his eyes said doubt. I lit a lucky drawing deep, watching Eddie wilt under the weight. He was the echo of every green kid I'd buried. Wide-eyed, full of questions that killed quicker than bullets. But pity? Hell no. This war was a machine, grinding boys to men or meat, and he was a flaw in the gear. Dawn brought the bridge scout, panzers rumored in the draws, Rommel's ghosts holding the line. He'd hold or he'd hinder. Either way, the burden strapped to my back grew heavier, mud and all. Dawn in the Hürtgen was a gray lie. Fog coiling thick as cigarette smoke off the Call River trails. Late 1944, and Bradley's boys were grinding for those rower spans. Concrete teeth holding back von Rundstedt's last gasp before the Rhine. We'd lost 3 more overnight to sniper cracks in the dark, their foxholes cold when Preacher called roll. My map table was an ammo crate in the barn's corner, scarred with pencil ghosts of hedgerows past. Lieutenant Hayes, fresh-faced, West Pointer, all polish and pointers, hunched over it now, finger jabbing a fold in the terrain. Sergeant Whitaker, I need eyes on that ridge east of Schmidt. High ground overlooks the bridge approach. Spot any panzers coiling or we're blind to a counterpunch. I nodded, jaw set, like the iron it earned in Kasserine. Hayes was green as Eddie, but brass shielded him. Mine was the meat to chew. Scanned my line, Tex leaning on his scoped Springfield, eyes hollow from the watch. Doc taping a fresh bandage roll, muttering about frostbite creeping. Brooklyn oiling his Thompson's drum, knuckles white. Preacher thumbing his dog tags, whispering verses against the chill. Solid men, blood bought, and this op smelled like a meat grinder. Cross the draw, seize the bridgehead, pray the 88s stayed muzzle down. But Eddie? He slouched at the edge, Garand slung loose, glasses smudged, fiddling with a snapped entrenching tool like it was a T-square. Burden incarnate, eyes darting like he sketched escape routes in his head. Hayes straightened. Take a fire team up there, Whitaker. Wire report every 15. Move at 0800. My gut twisted. Send vets into that mist? Fog hid mines, tripwires, Jerry's nests. One slip, and I'd bury more than boots. Glanced at Eddie again, his clean shave mocking the stubble scars on my crew. War's math was cruel. 1 weak link snapped the chain. And hell, if the kid bought it quiet, maybe the platoon breathed easier. Yes, sir, but I'll handle the eyes myself. Hayes blinked, but I waved it off. Special detail. Harlan here, our new draftsman, Volunteers. Knows angles, spots flaws from afar. Perfect for skyline work. The lieutenant shrugged, map rolled. Your call, Sergeant. Just get the word. He ducked out to the CP Jeep, leaving the air heavy. Tex caught my eye first, brow arched slow. You shitting us, Ironjaw? Sending the blueprint kid to play spotter? Brooklyn snorted, mag clacking home. That's a one-way ticket to a Kraut postcard. Doc just shook his head, packing sulfa. Preacher murmured something about lambs to slaughter. Eddie froze, color draining like he'd heard his own obit. Me, Sarge? Alone? Stepped in close, voice low gravel. You, Harlan. Field phone, full spool of wire, 200 yards worth. Crawl that ridgeline east, belly low. Dig in shallow, eyes on the draw. Spot a panther's whiskers or a half-track rumble. You crank that horn and sing. No skylining, no chatter till it's gold. Clear? His hands shook, uncoiling the wire reel from the signal kit, fingers fumbling the crank like it burned. Yes, Sarge. But the fog. And if they're there, I cut flat. Or they ain't. Either way, you freeze again, and it's your ticket home in a bag. Move out solo. Keep the wire taut, or we'll never hear your fairy tales. Threw it hard, the last jab to shove him over. He swallowed, shouldered the reel like a cross, Garand muzzle down, and ghosted into the mist-shrouded trail. The platoon watched him go. Sympathetic glances flickering quick, then away. Tex spat tobacco. Poor bastard's drawn his last lines. No one argued. Kid was clay for the wheel, and this war spun fast. Turned to the rest, map unrolled fresh. All right, that's the decoy. Reel plays west flank. We hump the creek bed, hit the bridge from the blind side. Tex, you and Brooklyn ghost the lead, pick off sentries. Doc, Preacher, cover the wire team. Low and lethal. No heroes, just the objective. Nods rippled, packs shouldered quiet. We filed out opposite, boots sucking mud silent as we could, the fog swallowing Eddie's trail like a bad dream. Wire wouldn't hold in that snarl of roots and brambles. Phone'd crackle dead soon enough. Figured him for a stiff by noon. Sniper's tag or a patrolling stug grinding him flat. One less worry for the push. Humped single file, Springfield slinging easy, mind chewing the bones. This wasn't a game for boys with pencils. It was for men who'd traded dreams for dog tags. Eddie? He'd sketched bridges in safety, not bled for 'em. Sending him was mercy in a twisted way. Cull the weak before they culled us all. Bradley wanted the rower. Ike wanted Berlin. Me? I wanted my platoon breathing come dusk. Fog thickened as we crossed the creek, water ice needle cold, and I pushed the thought of that kid's soft eyes down deep. War took what it wanted. Today it'd take him. The creek bed was a bastard. Ankle-deep ice water numbing toes through the wool, roots snagging like Jerry's traps. Fog clung low, turning pines to smudges, but we'd humped it clean, the bridge's silhouette ghosting ahead by 1000 hours. Late 1944 in Hürtgen's maw, Bradley's push clawing for the rower, von Rundstedt's old fox holding cards close. My fire team, Tex ghosting point with his Springfield's whisper scope, Brooklyn's Thompson hungry, crested the bank quiet as death. No crackle on the field phone. Eddie's wire had gone slack an hour back. Reel tangled or cut, kids stiff in some draw. Figured him fertilizer by now, one less mouth drawing breath. Pushed it down. Focus on the span. Concrete teeth under mist. Kraut sentries vague as regrets. Easy, I breathed, hand signal rippling back. Preacher's bar thumped soft against his hip. Doc's pack heavy with sulfa dreams. Lieutenant Hayes had the platoon strung wide. Sherman's rumblings support a click rear. Iron thunder to crack the line. First trench loomed, Jerry's wire ragged, sandbags slumped like drunks. Tex squeezed one round. Ping clean sentry folding without echo. Brooklyn's burst stitched the next, bodies crumpling silent. We flowed in, boots on necks, Garand's probing dark. Trench smelled of wet earth and piss. Mausers cold in dead grips. Clear left, Tex drawled low. Felt too smooth, like Normandy's bait before the storm. but hell, momentum was morphine. We owned the lip, bridge 50 yards flat, engineers prepped to wire it home. Hayes signaled consolidate from the CP foxhole, his runner panting updates. Push the span, Whitaker. Brass wants it by noon. Nodded, gut tight, but voices in my head quiet for once. Vets moved like oil. Preacher humping the bar forward, Doc covering flanks. Even the green around the edges felt solid. No clanks, no freezes. Thought maybe Ike's Rhine was real. Christmas stateside, with Betty's ghost fading. Then it cracked open. Flank lit hellfire. MG-42 from the ridge we'd skirted, that bastard buzzsaw ripping at 1,200 rounds a minute. Tracers lacing the fog like comets. Bullets chewed sandbags, stitching Preacher's shoulder before he hit dirt, bar clattering. Down! Flank fire! Yanked him back, blood hot on my sleeve, his face gray under the helmet. Brooklyn spun, Thompson barking, but the gun chattered back. Nest entrenched, Jerry's Angels pouring lead. Our line buckled, men piling into the trench, Garan's cracking desperate. Tex dropped a loader with a headshot, scope glint steady, but the gun swung, hosing our right. Then the Sherman, Big Bertha, we dubbed her, treads grinding close, took a fist from the dark. Panzerfaust whooshed unseen, hollow charge punching her side like a gut knife. Boom rolled thunder, turrets slewing wild as flames licked tracks, crew bailing black against orange. Screams cut short by small arms, Jerry picking them like ducks. Tanks hit, pull back, Hayes yelled from cover, but back was a dream. MG fire cross-hatching the open, pinning us like bugs. Lost sight of two, Ramirez and the kid from Jersey, shredded in the wire, moans gurgling wet. Doc was a whirlwind, crawling gut low, slapping tourniquets on Preacher's arm, sulfa powder clouding the air. Bibs running dry, Sarge. Need evac yesterday. His voice cracked. First time I'd heard fear in the Philly steel. Radio next, our SCR 536, Hayes' lifeline to battalion. Caught a splinter from a near miss, glass shattering, vacuum tubes fried. Static hissed dead. No call for barrage, no P-47s screaming low. We were ghosts now, cut off in von Rundstedt's jaws. Realized it then. Cold spike in the chest. Scout was bunk. That ridge wasn't blind. Jerry'd laced it thick, baited the creek with whispers of empty. Trap sprung perfect. Rommel's echo in the pines. Grenades started sailing. Steel hand granates, potato mashers on sticks, arcing lazy over the lip. First one pinwheeled into the trench, fuse spitting. Frag out! Kicked it back blind, blast blooming German ward. But the next caught Brooklyn square. Blast wave slamming him against the wall. Leg mangled below the knee, bone white in the red. He bit through his lip, cursing. Thompson clutched like a lover. Motherfuckers, get him, Ironjaw. Tex laid cover, Springfield popping heads, but ammo dwindled. Clips pinging empty, bolt locks gleaming. Preacher dragged himself up, bar one-handed, hosing the nest till the pan cooked, dry. Even he, Bible boy, had the 1,000-yard stare cracking through, eyes hollow as the shell craters. Tried to rally, crawled the line, slapping shoulders, barking low. Fix bayonets, we punch the flank, take the gun. But the fire was a wall. MG-42 relentless, bullets snapping overhead like whips. One grazed my helmet rim, singing hair, close enough to taste copper. Men froze in the muck, good men blooded from Sicily's dust. Faces pale, breaths ragged, waiting for the end. Hayes huddled, map shredded, whispering prayers or curses. Lost 4 more scrambling for the push. Shrapnel harvests, bodies twitching in the wire. Trench shrank, survivors shoulder to shoulder, grenades piling smoke and screams. Curled in the angle, Garand, hot-barreled. I cursed the fog, the map, myself. Should have smelled the rot. Too quiet on the hump, no patrols, no dogs barking distant. Led him into the abattoir for a bridge that mocked us now. Span iron under Jerry's heels. Eddie? Forgotten ghost, his wire a joke in the wind. This was the grind, Hürtgen's toll. Boys to meet for Ike's flags. Shells walked closer, earth trembling, and I gripped the stock tight, wondering if the next mash would be mine. No way out but through, and through looked like Hell's Gate. The trench was a charnel pit by noon. Hürtgen's fog turning acrid with cordite and copper tang. Late 1944 and von Rundstedt's trap had us gnawing our own bones. Bradley's Rhine push choking on blood in the pines. We'd shrunk to 8 souls, huddled in the curve. Garons caked, faces smeared black from powder burns. Preacher wheezed shallow, arm tourniqueted tight above the elbow. Bible forgotten in the muck. Brooklyn grimaced through the morphine haze, leg splinted crude with a Mauser stock. Thompson mags down to scraps. Tex reloaded deliberate, Springfield's bolt slick with sweat, eyes scanning the lip like a hawk on a wire. Doc crawled between us, plasma bottles empty, voice a rasp. Holding, Sarge, but we're candles in the wind. Hayes slumped against the wall, helmet tilted, staring at the shattered radio like it owed him answers. No barrage called, no P-51s to strafe the nest. Just the MG-42's stutter winding up again, Jerry massing for the coup de grace. Grenades had stopped, but that meant worse. Infantry probe, boots in the wire, bayonets thirsty. I gripped my Garand's pistol grip, thumb tracing the oiled walnut, mind chewing escape angles none fit. The bridge mocked us 100 yards off, span ours for a heartbeat before the buzzsaw claimed it. Shells from their 105's equivalents, those Nebelwerfers with their banshee wail, walked lazy now, conserving for the mop-up. Felt the weight of the platoon on my shoulders, ghosts of the lost whispering blame. Eddie? A faded sketch, his Ridge Scout a fool's errand, I'd penned myself. One more sin in the ledger. Steady, I muttered, voice gravel over the drip of blood. We wait for dark, then bleed 'em slow. Lies for the dying. Dark meant probes with flares, and we had no night eyes left. Then it cracked, not our line, but theirs. A clean ping echoed from the ridge's flank, sharp as a dropped spoon on tile. M1 Garand, 8-round clip cycling smooth, 300 yards out. No mistaking that American twang amid the Mauser coughs. A Kraut officer, tall and Feldgrau, binoculars glinting, jerked mid-stride at the trench's rear, folding like laundry, helmet tumbling with a dull clunk. Shouts erupted in guttural bursts. Sniper! Hinterruns! Boots scrambled, rifle swinging wild toward the tree line, shadows firing blind into the mist. Our MG-42 gunners twisted in their nest, barrels swinging off us for the first heartbeat since dawn. Chatter dying to confused bursts. What the hell? Tex breathed low, scope whipping up, but I waved him down. Hold fire, let the devil work. Before Jerry could reset, a grenade thumped soft. Our MK2 pineapple spoon-flipped, arcing perfect into the nest's sandbags. Whoomp! The blast rolled dirt and screams. MG-42 silencing in a tangle of limbs and twisted barrel, smoke belching black. The gun crew thrashed, one crawling free with his guts looped like sausage, but the rhythm broke. No more seamless hate, just ragged Mauser pops chasing ghosts. Germans boiled now, pelted from their own blindside. More pings. Methodical, unhurried, Garand barking lone wolves. One for a radio man fumbling his set, antenna crumpling. Another clipping a half-track driver mid-gear. Engine stalling with a diesel cough. Shouts multiplied. Find him, Rücken! Panzerfaust bereithalten! They wheeled, backs to us, pouring lead into the fog-shrouded rise where Eddie's wire had vanished. Flares popped hasty. Magnesium hiss-painting pines skeletal. But the shots answered cool. Ping, body drop, ping, another. Like a reaper with a ruler, picking strings without waste. Then the truck, ammo hauler, canvas taut with 88 shells, bloomed sudden orange 200 yards rear. Explosion hammered the air, secondary blasts chained lightning crates skyward, shrapnel whistling wild as fireworks gone mad. Flames clawed the canopy, tires popping like bones, Jerry's line fracturing in the glare. Their Nebelwerfer crew bolted the tubes, abandoning positions, while the infantry hunkered, eyes split between us and the Phantom. Our barrage, those walking 105s, stuttered halt, redirected to the ridge's Phantom, shells shrieking harmless over our heads into the draw. Doc seized it first, dragging Brooklyn foot by bloody foot toward a shell crater 20 yards left. Better cover, less exposure. Move! While they're dancing, I hissed, shouldering Preacher's weight. His good arm hooked my neck. Bar slung abandoned. Tex laid suppressive. 3 quick grand cracks, dropping a Jerry straggler. While Hayes stirred, fumbling his .45, face ghost pale but firing. We flowed low, bellies to the cold earth, hauling the wounded through the wire's tangle, barbs snagging wool like accusations. Gained the crater's lip, sliding in amid the churned mud, breaths ragged. From there the show unfolded. Germans milling like ants in a boot print, officers bellowing orders lost in the din, their probe collapsing to chaos. Flares guttered, shots from the ghosts sporadic but surgical. Another ping, a spotter crumpling mid-signal. Tex hunkered beside me, cheek welded to stock, whispering hoarse. That ain't Angel's Ironjaw. That's a ghost with a grudge. Hear that, Grand? Clean as a bell. Preacher, bandaged, crude, crossed himself faint. Lord's hand or devil's? Brooklyn, propped against the wall, managed a grin through the pain. Whoever, buy him a beer. Hayes nodded numb. Radio dreams dead, but hope flickering dim. I didn't know, couldn't know. Who pulled that trigger? What Yankee shade haunted their rear? Sniper? Saboteur? Some lost patrol we'd forgotten? But the air shifted, first crack of light in the vise. Their fire slackened on us. Resources split, the noose loosening a finger's width. Clips reloaded quiet. I scanned the line. Survivors coiled tight, eyes alive again, waiting my word. Prep counter. When the ghost quiets, we hit the flank hard. Bayonets and grenades. Take that bridge or die trying. Nods rippled. Garands chambered fresh. Thompsons charged. The pings continued lone, sowing panic like seeds in wind. Germans yelling retreat fractions, truck fire lighting their doubt. Hope? First taste in hours. Bitter as quinine, but real. Whoever the bastard was, he'd bought us breath. Owe him that at least. Pines dripped fog. Garand echoed distant. And for a beat, Hürtgen felt winnable. The crater was our Alamo by 1300. Hürtgen's pines framing a pyre of what we'd been. Late 1944, Bradley's rower gamble bleeding out in the fog. Von Rundstedt's snare tightening like a garrote. We'd clawed to 8, but the ghost's grace was fading. Pings from the ridge sporadic now, Jerry regrouping with that cold efficiency, their shouts sharpening to assault cadence. The Panther loomed then, ghost no more. Heavy tracks churning mud from the draw's mouth. 75-ton beast with its long 75mm KWK, snorting diesel fumes. Turret slewing deliberate toward our hole. Flanker infantry fanned wide, Mausers probing, steel hand granites at the ready. Mop-up crew smelling the kill. The main gun boomed practice once, shell cratering 20 yards left, dirt rain pattering helmets like accusations. Hull down! Bazooka up! I barked. But our 236-inch was a twisted wreck from the Sherman scrap, rocket tubes bent. Texas Springfield cracked true, pinging the commander's cupola, drawing blood but not halt, while Brooklyn's Thompson spat final rounds, leg a dead weight dragging him low. Preacher loaded his last clip one-handed, face ashen, Doc whispering sulfa prayers over a gut nick on Hayes. No ghost now, just the end. Bridge lost, platoon ghosts joining the mud. The Panther's tracks ground closer, treads flailing wire like spaghetti, its MG-34 chattering cokes, bullets snapping crater rims. A grenade arced in, potato masher tumbling, and I lunged, batting it back midair, blast blooming German ward with screams. But the tank pressed, barrel questing our lip, loader ramming AP round. Felt the squad's eyes on me, waiting the word that wasn't there. Charge or curl, both suicide. Mine flashed Eddie, soft kid. Dropped Garand, frozen in the barrage. My call, my fault. Owed him a thought in the dark. Then the turret froze mid-traverse. Engine coughing sudden, a wet hack, like choking on gravel. Black smoke belching from the rear vents. Oil and rubber reek cutting the cordite. Crew bailed frantic, one legging it with his pants aflame, the rest cut down by Tex's bolt-action ballet. The beast slewed wild, tracks spinning futile, then stalled dead, a iron corpse blocking their lane. Shouts erupted crowdside. Panzer kaput! Sabotage! Infantry halting, eyes on the hulk. From the smoke's skirt, a figure rose. Low crawl from a drainage ditch flanking the draw. Garand slung easy, wire-rimmed glasses cracked, but eyes steady. Eddie Harlan, mud-caked from crown to boots, uniform shredded at the elbows, a captured MP40 dangling one hand like he'd borne it. No shake, no wide-eyed flinch, just a grunt's hunch, deliberate as a draftsman's line. He didn't rush. Popped 3 rounds from the Schmeisser, surgical bursts dropping the Panzerfaust team mid-load, then vanished back into the haze. Their probe shattered, Germans peeling rear under the Ghost's final gift, flares popping blind as they fell back on the bridge's shadow. We didn't cheer, too spent, too hollow, but moved when I nodded, hauling wounded over the lip, Garands covering the retreat. Tex dragged Brooklyn, dock-shouldered Preacher, Hayes limping his 45. The ridge fell quiet behind. Eddie's wire somehow taut again. Field phone crackling faint as we gained the tree line. Humped a click west, collapsing in a draws fold. Medevac flares up by dusk. He ghosted in last, dropping beside me, breath even, peeling a captured Luger like a trophy. Vets stared, Tex's scope lingering, Brooklyn's grin wolfish through the haze, Doc nodding slow. Hayes just exhaled, map forgotten. I sized him head to toe, glasses taped with engineer tape, hands grimed black, Garand barrel fouled but bolt slick. No boy there. The freeze burned out, replaced by something forged, angles sharp as his blueprints. Report, I graveled, voice low over the platoon's hush. He met my eye, no stutter. Ridge clear, Sarge, spotted the draw clean. No panzers coiling, just that one scout cat. But the bridge trailed, gesturing vague with the MP40. Pillars cracked from last barrage, load-bearing arch weak at the keystone. Jerry's trying to rush reinforcements across. Half tracks, infantry, but one more push, and it'll truss like a bad span. Crawled under with a satchel from their own truck, wedged the charge loose, not full boom. Timed it for the Panther's rumble. Vibrations did the rest, sheared the Flaw clean. Their tanks'll turn back or swim the rower. No brag, just fact. Architect's eyes spotting what we'd stormed blind, turning mud and math to salvation. Saved the bridge for us, not by fire but fracture. Jerry's counter choked before it breathed. Vets murmured low. Blueprint bastard, Tex drawled respect. Preacher quoted Proverbs faint. I held his gaze a beat, seeing the weight he'd carried solo. Fog, wire, the alone that breaks most. Nodded short, sharp, once like a bolt locking home. Highest coin I had. Duskfire later, after the dust-offs hauled Brooklyn and Preacher rear. Flames spitting pine sap under a clearing sky. Platoon thinned to ghosts, but breathing. Past the flask. My dented steel, bourbon burn from a Normandy run, silent across the circle. He took it steady, sipped deep, handed back without word. No speeches, no slaps. Just the nod's echo, brother now in the blood. Hürtgen ground on, rower waiting, but that night the line held, Flaw and all.